Hello everybody and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're going to be doing a slightly different video. We're going to be focusing on my Oldsmobile. Yes, we are doing a coolant flush on my 1991 Oldsmobile Quad 442 W40. Yes, that's a long name, but this is a pretty rare car. Let's get into it. So today guys, we are doing a coolant flush and don't know if y'all can see in there, but it is a pretty nasty mess. It is not been changed in quite a while. I personally, since I've had the vehicle, have not changed the coolant myself. So I'm just going to be doing a full-on flush. We're going to be using Prestone flush cleaner today, and then tomorrow is when I do the full coolant change and everything like that. Right now we are just going to be dumping the coolant. I'm going to be replacing the bottom radiator hose down here because this one has been leaking for a while. It's not leaking right now because it's not running, but when it runs it drips out every once in a while. So I just for precautionary measures, and just because I don't know if this could cause future issues, I am going to be replacing this as well. As you let your coolant drain, yes, this does look like Dexcool. It is not Dexcool. I do not put Dexcool in my car. This is just how dirty the coolant is. It is a dirt orange. There's a lot of rust particles in it. It's just telling me that it is just needed to be replaced. It did get some in the control arm. As you can see, it's green, but a lot of it's brown and rusty and nasty. So I just took that hose off. There's supposed to be a drain over there, but since I'm replacing this hose right now this is the first day of 2 days, because I'm going to drive this later on with the coolant super flush treatment cleaner and distilled water. So I'm going to do that today, and then tomorrow is when we're going to drain it again and put coolant and water in it. So that is what we're doing. Another thing when you're doing these coolant flushes that you want to do is you're going to want to remove or clean your coolant reservoir. So what I've done is I've taken it out. It's 3 bolts, 1 there, 2 right there, and then I unplugged everything, took the hoses off, the overflow for the radiator. I took off the overflow drain, which is just a single piece of hose right there. I took that off, and then I also took off the return. I think this is what the return is, or the feed. I don't know what this is, but this is at the top. It's part of the lower radiator hose. I was going to have to remove it anyway, but I'm going to also clean the I'm going to be cleaning the coolant reservoir itself. So that's another thing you might want to look into. Mine is dirty and brown. Let me show you. So here is the coolant reservoir. As you can see, it's supposed to be clear, but you can see there's like little rust specks and build up from all that dirty coolant that was in it. I'm going to be taking this inside and just spraying it out, put some water through it, some hot water, spray everything out of it, and should be good to go. Okay, now since I have cleaned that gunky reservoir, we're going to move on to the actual lower radiator hose I'm replacing today. So it's been a while, but ew, whatever those white spots are, I don't know what that is. We got white spots in here, we got rust. It looks like that's is that oil? Yeah, that's oil, but that's coming from, actually I have an oil leak. So all this oil, it's not in the actual coolant, so, but it's weird, a white foamy color. It's only small little droplets because of, again, I have a not a coolant leak, I have an oil leak right where the coolant reservoir, or where this connects. You could probably see how oily the line is itself. If not, yeah, that's where the oil is coming from. No, I don't have a head gasket issue. This engine's been rebuilt with the new redesigned head gasket, so, and this motor in general with the rebuild only has probably like 60,000 on it, so it wouldn't even be around the range for a head gasket to blow. But so yeah, that's what we're looking at right now. Dirty coolant as we speak, but I'm gonna move on to actually removing the lower radiator hose. Okay guys, and about an hour later, after I've put on the lower radiator hose, which if you're just doing a regular coolant flush, you don't need to do, but I did that. I also cleaned this a little bit more because it still had some big chunks in it. Agitation works amazing with this thing. You fill it with water, then you cover both holes, and you just start shaking everything. That works amazing for getting gunk out of these things. It is a lot cleaner. I don't know if y'all can see in there. It is so much cleaner in there. So that worked. I have all my hoses connected. I have my new lower radiator hose on. Looks a lot better, from rockauto.com. I will leave that in the link in the description. Other than that, I mean, the reservoir is ready to be filled up and we're ready to bleed this thing. That's another process. Since I am doing a full flush, like my at-home flush, I'm gonna be doing that with some regular water, no coolant. Check your weather because you do not want to freeze your block, but it is not going to go below freezing tonight. So I'm going to be filling this and doing the bleeding, and the bleeding process on one of these cars is different because there is no radiator cap. There is only a reservoir right here, so I'm going to show you that process as well. Okay guys, now it's the moment of truth. You got to just start filling it up. I'm going to put the chemical in first so I know for sure that I have the chemical in my system. Okay, let that drain all the way out. I'll make sure that's all up in there. That's what's going to help clean our motor from the inside, at least the cooling system part. Okay, then we're going to take our gallons and we're going to fill it up until we fill the reservoir. From there, you're going to start the engine, continue to fill, and then once it gets up to operating temperature, then you're going to want to jack up this side and start watching the level and going from there. Okay guys, so after you fill the reservoir, before starting it, you want to fill this reservoir. After filling it, start the engine and start jacking it up on this side. You want to get it up to operating temperature, let the thermostat open, and then continue to fill until it is done bubbling and lowering with the level. You want to jack it up pretty high. I have it up pretty high, so this is the highest point in the engine, so this is where it's going to actually start bleeding to. All the air bubbles are going to run through right after the thermostat opens. Actually, another thing, turn your heater on full blast. Turn your heater on full blast. It's going to run through the heater core now as well. So that's going to run. That's also going to suck coolant through. Actually, it's going to suck water through. So this is the bleeding process on day one. You're going to do the same thing for day two for your super flush. But yeah, I'm letting the engine warm up and I'll get back with y'all. Okay, after you're done bleeding the system, go ahead, set it down. If you're doing a super flush like I am, well, I'm just going to call it a super flush, then you are going to want to drive this around 1 or 2 days, about 100 to 150 miles, just to make sure the chemical gets everywhere inside of the cooling system, so then you can continue on with your life and move on to day 2, which I'm about to do a quick old transition. Guys, it is part 2. Here we go. We are getting ready to drain the chemical solution that is in there right now. I've driven this thing for like 2 or 3 days, going about 150 miles on this coolant chemical solution. So let's go ahead and drain it out and see what it looks like. Guys, so after you're done draining your coolant, it's pretty much the same process as earlier, except you don't have to clean that out if you don't want to. If you want to, you can. The water that should come out should be mostly transparent, unless you really had like a blockage or something that it was clearing out, and then a bunch of more coolant will come out. But I had mostly transparent brown water that came out, which is just the solution clearing out the rust that is in the engine, which is a good thing. So don't be surprised by that. It's not going to be clear. It's going to be slightly of a certain color. Now all you're going to have to do is fill it up with coolant and water, and you're good to go. Okay guys, now after you reconnect your drain plug or coolant line or whatever you use to drain it, you're going to want to either get 50-50 mix, or in my case I'm going to be doing my own mix of 1 gallon of this and the rest water, because the Oldsmobile takes 2.5 gallons of fluid. So I wish I had a funnel, but I got skill. there's a difference.
That is
So I'm going to be doing a 1 gallon mixture with a 1.5 gallon of water mix in the Oldsmobile today, which gives it roughly a 50% mix, which will be plenty in the winter time. It doesn't get that cold. To be honest, I could go less, but just to be safe, I don't want my engine block being frozen. So I'm going to be pouring this in here. And yes, the engine's not running now, but once it gets full after it's not running, you're going to want to start the engine. Okay guys, now after you're done bleeding like I just did, you can see I got my jack there, and you can see that the water has turned slightly green. I don't know if I even showed y'all the color of the water before. It was clear. But after you're done doing the bleeding process where you turn the heater all the way on, you jack it up on one side, start filling it until the thermostat opens up, and then you continue to fill it. Then what you're going to want to do is take it for a drive, make sure everything's working properly, make sure it's running at operating temperature, and make sure it's not going to overheat, because if it overheats, you did something wrong, or you have a leak somewhere and you're running out of coolant. But if everything goes right and you come back, you might need to top it off a little bit. But after that, that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to throw the tire back on, go for a drive, throw a couple clips of that in here, and yeah, thanks for watching.